Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Ukraine latest, Russia's second phase aims for full control of Ukraine's south and corridor to Moldova. Commander says a Russian deputy commander says Russia plans to take full control of Donbas and southern Ukraine as part of the second phase of its military operation. Rustam Minnekayev, the deputy commander of Russia's central military district, was also cited by the Interfax news agency as saying Russia planned to forge a land corridor between Crimea, the Black Sea peninsula which Russia annexed in 2014, and Donbas in eastern Ukraine. He said taking control of southern Ukraine would improve Russian access to Moldova's pro-Russian breakaway region of Transnistria, which borders Ukraine and which Kyiv fears could be used as a launching pad for new attacks against it. Control over the south of Ukraine is another way to Transnistria, where there is also evidence that the Russian-speaking population is being oppressed. TASS quoted Major General Minnekayev as saying at a meeting in Russia's central Sverdlovsk region. He was not quoted as providing any evidence to back up the claim. Russia confirms death from Moskva fire on Friday, local time. Russia's defense ministry confirmed for the first time that the crew of the missile cruiser Moskva suffered casualties when it blew up and sank last week, a report from RIA news agency indicated. Russia initially said all the ship's crew were evacuated after an ammunition blast triggered by a fire ripped through the Moskva, the flagship of its Black Sea fleet. Attempts by the crew to extinguish the fire were not successful, RIA quoted the defense ministry as saying. During the struggle to stabilize the ship, one serviceman died and another 27 crew members went missing. The remaining 396 members of the crew were evacuated. Ukraine says it hit the vessel with an anti-ship missile. U.S. to host Ukraine defense talks in Germany. The U.S. military expects more than 20 countries to attend Ukraine-focused defense talks that it will host in Germany next week to focus, in part, on Kyiv's long-term defense needs, the Pentagon said on Friday. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby appeared to play down expectations of announcements about long-term assistance at the April 26 talks, saying, "We're not going into this with a pre-cooked set of endings here." He added that about 40 nations were invited to attend the talks, which were not being organized under the NATO alliance umbrella, and would include non-NATO nation-states. Civilians buried in mass graves outside Mariupol. The United Nations Human Rights Office on Friday pointed to what it said is growing evidence of war crimes committed by Russian forces, declaring that humanitarian law appears to have been tossed aside. Read more. Michelle Bachelet, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, said that, "Our work to date has detailed a horror story of violations perpetrated against civilians." Her office's mission in Ukraine so far has verified 5,264 civilian casualties, including 2,345 deaths, since the war began. It said that 92.3% of those were recorded in Ukrainian government-controlled territory. The office uses strict methodology and has long acknowledged that its confirmed figures are far short of the real numbers. The actual numbers are going to be much higher as more details emerge from places such as Mariupol where there is intense fighting, Ms. Bachelet said. In Mariupol, Ukrainian fighters are still clinging to their last redoubt inside the Azovstal steelworks. The strategic port city has been under attack since the beginning of the Russian invasion in February. An aide to Mr Zelensky's chief of staff told national television that 42 villages were added to the list of those that have been occupied in the Donetsk region. "This happened today, Thursday, and might be that our forces will win them back tomorrow," the aide said. On Thursday, Russian President Vladimir Putin claimed victory in Mariupol despite Ukrainian forces still holding parts of the Azovstal complex. New satellite images appeared to show over 200 new graves at a cemetery in the Ukrainian town of Manhush near Mariupol. The imagery showed what looked like long rows of graves stretching away from an existing cemetery in the town. Mariupol Mayor Vadim Boychenko said Russian troops were burying Ukrainian civilians to cover up military crimes, and said hundreds of civilians had been buried in trenches near Manhush. It is important to understand that the lives that are still there, they are in the hands of just one person, Vladimir Putin. And all the deaths that will happen after now will be on his hands too, Mr. Boychenko said. Ukrainian authorities estimate more than 21,000 civilians have been killed in Mariupol since Russia began its attack. Mr. Boychenko appealed on Friday for the full evacuation of the Ukrainian city. We need only one thing, the full evacuation of the population. About 100,000 people remain in